There we go. It's thinking. Okay, I
What's
think
the
we are
concept
on.
of that? What does that mean?
Sorry, hold on. So welcome to the people joining us on YouTube, watching this later. We are talking Purim. Woo! Alan, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, great. So we're gonna dive into a little bit of drinking on Purim, and I want to give gratitude to another one of my teachers, Rabbi Aaron Alexander, who helped to compile a bunch of these sources because there are a lot, but I am taking some of his. So anyway, so here we have from the Talmud. This is where we go back to the beginning, where we get this idea of drinking on Purim. It's here. And we're going to see what it actually says, because I think I'm just going to tell you, spoiler alert, that I don't think it's as clear as some people might lead you to believe. So, okay, so here we go. Does someone want to read right here? This little Alan, yes.
So can I read the full thing?
Yeah, I'm gonna interrupt you in the middle, just so you know.
Rava said one is obligated to become intoxicated, Leva Sumai, on Purim until one does not know the difference between curse is Haman and blessed is Mordecai.
Okay, so pause. Thank you. So, right, so according to this statement, right, and maybe some of you have heard this statement, and the one of the pieces of the statement in the Hebrew is ad lo yada, which I think sometimes that Hebrew is, I don't know, in Israel when I celebrate Purim, when I was there a while ago now, but the Purim parades were called ad lo yada, and which is really interesting. I don't know why the parades were called ad lo yada, which means until you don't know, which is referencing this. I'm not sure, but we can think about why maybe. But that phrase you might come across. So this idea of not knowing, right? So if you just hear this, it's like, okay, you're supposed to drink so much that you don't know the difference between like the villain and the hero. That seems like you're getting very, very drunk. Yes. But then wait for it. So there's also this comment on the Hebrew, because the word for intoxicated, there's like liv sumai, and like what does that even mean? And it's from the same root as the idea of like smelling and besamim, right, from Havdalah. So there's like kind of already a little bit of a question mark, but anyway, okay. So Alan, if you want to keep going where it says Rabbah.
Rabbah and Rabbi Zerah had the Purim feast together. They became intoxicated. Rabbah arose and slew Rabbi Zerah. The next day, Rabbah prayed for mercy and received Rabbi Zerah. The following year, Rabbah asked Rabbi Zerah, "Come, Master, and we will have the Purim feast together." Rabbi Zerah responded, "Not every time does a miracle occur."
Yes, thank you. I love this story. Okay, so we have this story where we have Rava and Ravi Zera and their buds, and they have their Purim meal together, right? Their Suda, one of the 4 mitzvot we learned about, oh my gosh, 2 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago. I don't know, where is time? It was the first one. I guess that's 2 weeks ago, right? Okay, anyway, so 2 weeks ago, they're having their meal and they got drunk, right? They're following Rava's pronouncement above that he says, you got to drink until you don't know the difference. And they do that. And then Rava, because he doesn't know the difference between good and evil, kills his friend, right? He no longer realizes that is bad. So he kills his friend because he's so drunk. And the next day, Ravo realizes, oh my God, he probably had a terrible hangover, but he realizes, oh my gosh, I killed my friend. Like I did not want to do that. So he prays for mercy, and Rabbi Zera is magically revived. Wow, miracle. So then next year, Rava again, right? Rava's the one who killed Rabbi Zera. So Rava's like, hey, like we had so much fun last year, right? Like come over, we'll have a Purim feast. And Rabbi Zera is like, nah, no, thank you. Once is enough. Getting killed once is enough. But right, he says, not every time does a miracle occur. Right? He's like, I'm not gonna push my luck here. So, yeah. So there we go. So that is all in the Talmud, like right up next to each other. That's all one text. Yeah. So I guess the question is like, what do you think I mean, they're written here, but like, what does the story about Rabbi and Rabbi Zera do to Rava's statement before it? How do you feel like they're like working together or not? Um, yeah, or any thoughts around that? Yeah,
I think that they do work together almost in opposition. So the first one says, so drunk you don't know the difference. And the other sort of says, well, wait a minute, maybe we still need to be able to see right from wrong and be responsible. So they're in opposite, actually.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, Lorraine. Definitely. Other thoughts around? Have you come across this before? Is this like old news? This new news? I see some no's. I see some yeses. Okay, great. I love it. So yeah, exactly like Lorraine, you were saying, right? It's kind of shedding light on the original statement, right? Saying, okay, like if we were to, it's almost like a thought experiment, right? Like if we were to actually do this, what could happen, right? If we stop knowing good from evil, what might happen? And here we have like, oh, something really bad could happen, right? Like we don't, something that we don't want to happen could happen. And so like, yeah, I think it definitely puts a big question mark next to Rava's statement. A very big, oversized, maybe neon yellow question mark next to Rava's statement. Yeah, and I think that like the rabbis, and we're going to see some other interpretations of what the rabbis make of this. I think they're really influenced by these two pieces together, because yeah, and also it's kind of if you really think about it, like it's kind of an odd thing to say, like you have to get like wasted on Purim and like why, like I don't know, it just seems like an odd thing. Why is Rava's statement even there? That's a great question. I mean, I think, yeah, Stephen, do you have
One of the things that's interesting is if you look at the gematria of Arur Haman and Baruch Mordechai, they are equivalent. So my question is, I mean, I've heard this. I didn't hear about the second thing where he actually killed him, someone else, but I've read different drushes on this that some rabbis say you should be drinking more than you should, but others have warned that that should never be the norm on Purim, that you're supposed to be alert enough to understand and hear every word of the Megillah. And so you're actually counteracting one of the other mitzvot, is that's to hear the Megillah. So, I always thought that was just maybe a figurative thing that you should, maybe, necessarily not be able to tell the difference, but at least appreciate that for whatever joy we have, things almost didn't turn out very well, and that you always have to have an equal amount of counter punch to the evil that might befall us, and that it's more figurative and maybe than really to get so drunk, because look what happens in the Gemara. This is what we worry about, and here it happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard that interpretation of, the gematria, right? The values assigned to the letters are the same. So actually, like, it's not that hard to drink enough so that you can't tell the difference, because they actually added up to the same thing. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's interesting, this question of like kind of Dvorah, what you were raising, and also Stephen, what you were just speaking on about, like, what is Rava's statement doing? And are we meant to even take it literally, right? Because the story with Rabba and Rabbi Zera, where, they get drunk and he kills him, like that story takes Rava's statement very literally, right? They're saying, okay, like we're going to get so drunk that we're not going to be able to tell the difference between good and evil, and this thing happens. But it is an interesting thing to ponder of, like, what is Rava actually saying? Is Rava saying, we should get drunk because, right, like things on Purim are topsy-turvy, and getting into that spirit, like we should get topsy-turvy ourselves and not really be able to tell like up from down and all of that? Or is he saying something much more subtle? Because I think arguments can be made for both. I mean, I think also, yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to take it like a slightly different place though. So if you wanted to say something on that, I'll let you.
I was going to say, even if Rava believed what he believed in the first place, the fact his friend died and was brought back to life, you think that might temper his thoughts on it, but here he is inviting him to, let's do it again.
Yeah, definitely. And I will say, because this is not clear in here, and I should have clarified, is so Rava and Rabba are different people. And that was very confusing to me in rabbinical school, because also like when they're written in Hebrew, one has a hey at the end and one has an aleph. And I'd always get confused, like which one was which.
Okay.
I think it's, and I had this way of like a weird way of pronouncing it, because I think it was Rabach with the hey at the end, and then Rava is the one with the aleph, but like I would always get confused. But yeah, so Rava's statement is different, like it's different characters than the other two. But yeah, I will also say, like, I think that, you know, when we're talking about Haman and Mordecai, it's pretty clear, okay, like, you know, one's the bad guy, one's a good guy or whatever. But I think also maybe Rava, if we take him in a less literal sense, maybe he could be talking about how it's not always clear, right? Like good and evil in like this like superhero way. Like that's not really how life is, right? Like life is like very gray, right? Like there's not a lot of black and white. And I feel like it's really easy to find, I don't know, I feel like I'm having trouble thinking of a particular idea, and I don't want to like get into like political policy here because that's not what we're talking about. But I think there are times where on both sides, like we'll think, oh, this is a really good policy, and then it will have some unintended consequence. And so we like raise it up as like, oh, this is like a big win, and then actually, you know, something not great happens as a result, or people are more you know, we're all complex. And I think about also I recently watched, I promise this will relate, I recently watched a documentary about Britney Spears. I don't know if anyone's watched it. It's really great, Framing Britney Spears, and you can get it in Canada. It's a little bit harder, but I figured it out. I just spent a lot of time on Google. It's by the New York Times, so it's like a legit, it's New York Times. The New York Times did a whole thing, and how Britney Spears is kind of like demonized by the press, and really like looking back at like what actually was happening, and how the tabloids especially love to demonize famous women, and there's like a lot of evidence of different cycles of the tabloids kind of like demonizing these women because it like sells, when actually like it's more complicated than that, right? So I think that maybe Rav is trying to tap into that idea of actually it's not always as clear, and so you don't have to get so drunk because it's good and evil aren't, it's not always so obvious, unfortunately. So yes, Stephen.
Can I just ask you, I'm not familiar with the Hebrew word in the Gemara there. Is livas sumaik, is it actually the Aramaic word for intoxicated, or could it be interpreted in a different way that may have a different implication, like bisamim, from bisamim? Could it be that you were kind of on certain kind of drugs or some other meaning that could make this passage have a different meaning at all?
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, from what I've come across, I haven't come across like a lot of any like alternative meanings necessarily. I mean, like here, you know, they pointed out that maybe there's something having to do with spices. That could also just be like the wine.
But the word, yeah, because the word intoxicated in the next paragraph the same root word?
Yeah, I believe so. I had the Hebrew on here, and then I took it off because it was like Aramaic, and I was like, we don't need that. And now I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. But
well, if it is, it's probably the word then. That's probably
yeah. But yeah, so it's an interesting little passage. But yeah, so I always like to say, because you know a lot, and I think someone just said that, right? Like we always hear Rava's statement at the beginning about like getting so drunk that you don't know the difference, but then no one ever talks about the next part, and I think it's just as important. Right, like they're meant to go together, so you got to keep these two buds together. They're BFF. Okay, any other thoughts about this particular passage? And then okay, great. Are we all doing okay? Yes. Okay, great. It's sometimes hard to tell on Zoom. Yay. It's gonna be so strange to like going back to teaching in person. I like won't be used to like all of the feedback I get. I'll be like, there's so many things happening and I can't stare at my face while I'm teaching, I try not to do that. I hide myself, but okay. Anyway, yeah. So Devorah, going back to your question, I feel like we didn't really answer it, but we tried. But I think it's something to continue to think about like what's Rava getting at here. I want to keep thinking about that. Okay, so now we're gonna go and see a bunch of some different takes on this above paragraph that we just looked through. So here we have Beit HaBechira, which is Rabbi Menachem Meiri. You can see his dates. He wrote a bunch of stuff, like some of the commentaries on some of the law codes. And so here's what he said. So would someone like to read it out loud? Yes, Stephen, I'll even make it bigger. There you go.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, us old guys, you know. In any case, we're not commanded to get drunk and denigrate ourselves during this time of joy, for we have not been commanded to experience joy in the form of disgrace and stupidity. Well, that's what we were saying, right? Rather, we experience the joy and delight that comes from a love of God and a thankfulness for the miracles that God bestows upon us, and that which is written. Until one can discern between cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordechai, some Geonim explain that this is in light of which follows, namely that Rabbah rose and slew Rabbi Zera. This story comes to trump what comes before it.
Awesome, thank you. Right, so we have this take the Beit HaBechira is arguing that, right, the story that we just saw in the Talmud, that second part with Rabbi and Rabbah and Rabbi Zera killing each other, well, one killing the other, comes to like negate the statement totally. So we don't have to worry about getting drunk. And yeah, I think it's also interesting. I mean, we can think about this as we read. There are a few other interpretations, but like also thinking about how, you know, rabbis' personal lives are like reflected in these statements of like, it seems like this person, Rabbi Menachem Meiri, like was not the biggest drinker, right? But I think that there are others who are like more open to it. Yeah, so there you go. Or you said, maybe we are permitted to become intoxicated up to the point where we can't distinguish good from evil. Maybe we are permitted. Maybe. That would be I wouldn't want to be around.
No, but I'm suggesting that they're permitting people to become drunk without becoming intoxicated.
Oh.
You know, we can get drunk up to that point. But you know, if you think you're losing the difference between you know, Haman and Mordechai, then you're that's your point to sort of stop drinking. I just a thought.
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, so this idea of, right, like I feel like this is in like math or something when we're talking about a set, and is it inclusive or like not? And so you're saying that it's like we're saying, okay, get almost there, but don't actually get there. Yeah, great. So yeah, so there you go. So I mean, I think the other thing I liked about this interpretation was just thinking about like how do we experience joy, and yeah, I mean here, you know, he says from a love of God and thankfulness for the miracles that God bestows on us. And again, like maybe that language works for some of us. I'm not sure that it works for me so much, but thinking about how do we cultivate joy. And yeah, I mean, for some people, I think having a few glasses of wine can be helpful to cultivate joy. I know for me, that would make me sick because I'm allergic to wine. But yeah, I think that's something worthwhile to think about, is cultivating joy for Purim, and how we can do that. And you know, here he's talking about gratitude, really, right? Like thankfulness, there's this gratitude piece. And I think that's a nice thing to think about. So having gratitude, we love it. We always love it. Okay. So now we got our friend Sefer Kolbo, another Jewish law code, lots of Purim. And here is, and this one is, I think I chose a lot of the anti, because I feel like we get so many of the pro drinking ones. So I like to highlight some of the other opinions that we might not always come into contact with, because there are definitely a lot of pro drinking approaches to this text as well. Okay, would someone like to read the Sefer Kol Bo?
I'll read it.
Amazing.
And yep, and one is obligated to become intoxicated on Purim. One should not get drunk, for inebriation is completely forbidden. There is no greater sin than this, for it causes forbidden sexual relationships, murder, and many other sins. However, one should drink a little more than usual in order to increase happiness and also to create happiness and comfort for the poor. This is full happiness.
Thank you. Yeah. So he's like, don't become intoxicated, don't do it. But he says, right, like drink a little more than usual. And I like his reasoning, right? He says, in order to increase happiness and also to create happiness and comfort for the poor. I think he's talking about like when sometimes when, I don't know, I haven't gotten drunk in a really long time, but I do remember like sometimes, you know, you've had a few glasses of whatever alcohol with dinner, and then like maybe you tip a lot more generously. I've definitely done that. And I think that's like this idea of, right, like you've been drinking a little bit, so your inhibitions around money might be a little bit looser, and so you're more likely to give a little bit more and be a little bit more generous to the poor, right? Like give it enough that you're like, oh, it's fine, like have an extra 20, have an extra 100, like whatever, and I think that's what he's pointing to, which I kind of like. I think that's fun. But yeah, this idea of like helping us loosen up so that right, in service of something else.
I have a question. Oh,
Yeah.
am I? Oh, okay, I'm okay. The question is around the word intoxicated, because sometimes you hear talk of people being intoxicated with their love for God, and intoxicated, meaning fully involved and loving and all of that. So I'm wondering if that fits in anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, so I think here, like this, and I could have made it clearer, but this is like it's not letting me. Here we go. This is the quote, right, from the Talmud, right? So they're just using that word intoxicated again. But yeah, I mean, I think it's again like going back to that question of, are we supposed to take Rava literally or not? And I think, right, we can argue both ways. And so maybe we're thinking about becoming intoxicated, yeah, in a different way, and like gratitude or love or whatever. Yeah. Okay. I think this. This is our last. Yeah. Okay. These are our last two on drinking, and then we'll have switch topics a little bit. Okay. So here we have the classic, the Shulchan Aruch. We love it, by Rabbi Joseph Caro. I shouldn't say we. I love it. You can feel however you like to feel about the Shulchan Aruch. It's a Jewish law code. This is like one of the major ones. It's from Caro. I really want to name my future dog Caro after this guy. We'll see. I don't know, but it has to fit. It has to fit this future dog's personality that we're on like a 2-year waiting list for. So it'll be a while. But anyway, Rabbi Joseph Caro. So we got the dates there, and then the commentary is Rabbi Moshe Isserlis, and we're gonna get both of them. And so how this was explained to me back in the day is like the Shulchan Aruch is written by Caro, and he's a Sephardi rabbi, and then the gloss, the commentary, it's like is the Ashkenazi view. So sometimes Isserlis will say like, this isn't how we do it in our places, or sometimes like, this is how we do it. And so it's like a fun discussion on paper. So that's cool. Okay, so would someone like to read? Someone, maybe we haven't heard your voice yet. I can make it bigger. I can make it really big. Whoa, too big. There you go. It's huge now. I know someone wants to. Yes, Mindy.
Yay.
Oh,
Okay. Rabbi Caro, one is obligated to drink on Purim until one does not know the difference between cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordechai. Rabbi Israelis, and there are those who say that one need not get too inebriated. Rather, drink a little more than usual and sleep. where during sleep one is unable to make the distinction, and whether one drinks heavily or drinks a small amount, intention toward heaven is required.
There you go. Thank you. Right. So Caro takes the opinion of like, you should get drunk. So maybe that was like the custom in the Sephardi, right? In Turkey or Sfat. Maybe in Sfat. That would make sense to me. In Sfat, they were doing all this like mystical stuff and they were like intoxicated a lot and, you know, on maybe who knows what. So he's taking it that way. And then Israelis is like, no, we're gonna tone that down a little bit. And I like this one that you drink a little more than usual and then you take a nap. Just makes you tired. And also generally when we're talking about this idea of getting drunk, it's really focused around the Suda, around the festive meal, which happens Purim day. So we're not necessarily talking about Purim night. I think a lot of like the parties happen at night because like that's just, you know, that's just how when parties usually happen, I guess. But they're talking about during the day. So this is like, you know, if you like eat a big meal in the middle of the day and you have, you know, I don't know, a margarita with it, because why not? Like you probably get tired and want to take a nap. So that's where he's going with it. So yeah, so just make it tired. And then when you're sleeping, you can't really tell the difference anyway. So you're all good. You're good to go. Yeah. Any thoughts on that? Reactions? Yes, Stephen.
Well, I think that makes sense. I think we were trying to make light of what Rava was saying rather than cancel it out completely. You know, maybe he wasn't saying to go to the nth degree to really go crazy, you know, with it. But this is a nice compromise. You know, you get a little more drunk and you fall asleep, and in your dreams you can't tell the difference, but you're not going to kill somebody else. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And if you kill someone in your sleep, well, if you kill someone in a dream in your sleep, it didn't really happen. So it's like, okay.
Unless you sleepwalk, you know, that's the problem.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, I'm not talking about, I hope no one, don't actually kill someone in their sleep. But yeah, I think it's like a nice way, as you said, yeah, it's a nice way to honor like Rava's statement and take it literally, but also in like maybe a safer way. Yeah, that is not going to end up with Rabbi Zera getting killed again. Here, I'll read this last one. So this is the Mishnah Berurah. So this is a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. Right. So fun fact for you all tonight, I guess, about this is, so the Mishnah Berurah, when people refer to the Mishnah Berurah, it's actually the Shulchan Aruch with Mishnah Berurah commentary. It was like drilled into me in rabbinical school. So it's like a section of the Shulchan Aruch, which is right from our buddy Caro up here, with this commentary that's called the Mishnah Berurah, which is by Rabbi Israel HaKohen Kagan, I guess is really how you say it. I don't know why I said Kagan, Kagan. And so he says, I'll read it for you all. And it is shown in Aliyah Zuta that in any case, it's another text. In any case, one must be careful to have intention for washing of the hands and the blessing over bread and the blessing after the meal. There should be joy in fulfilling these mitzvot. Right. So his take here is that, and this is something I think Stephen, you referred to this earlier, but like you can't be so drunk because you have to say the blessing after the meal, right? So if you're getting drunk during your Suda, during your festive meal, you have to say Birkat Hamazon after. And if you're so wasted that you don't know up from down, you're probably not going to be able to have proper intention in saying Birkat Hamazon. And it's still important that you have to like fulfill those mitzvot and have joy in them. So that comes to kind of temper Rava's statement of getting drunk. Because again, you want to be aware enough of the other things. So
we just read the one about go to sleep because you don't know the difference in your sleep. So that's interpretation for the first one, where in his dream he thought he killed him, gets up in the morning and his friend's sleeping, but he thinks he's dead and prays and shakes him and he comes alive. So maybe he never did kill him.
Oh, I love that interpretation. Yeah, of like, actually, he's just asleep. Rabbi Zera is just asleep and Rava thinks he's dead and he prays and like miraculously Rabbi Zera wakes up because he was just sleeping.
I think Reb Lorraine has the, Rebbitzin Lorraine has the answer.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. It's also, it's like, if you think of like, yeah, people when they I don't even know, but yeah, like mistaking someone for dead when they were sleeping. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I wonder if that's maybe where Rabbi Isserles, that commentary, got that idea from, or maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I've never thought about it that way. I like that. We're all just confused and we thought someone was sleeping. Someone was dead, but they were sleeping. Yeah. Yeah, any other kind of thoughts around this? I have like a little like different sideways thing that we're going to do next. But I want a chance to share thoughts, reactions, pressing or non-pressing, especially if you've been quiet and you want to speak. You could take Owly back out. You could talk to Owly. Just kidding. He's very
Rabbi, I think that, you know, that it's really interesting to see all the facets of this passage, because I've heard the first one and it's always bothered me a bit. And to see all these other discussions, it looks like other people were concerned about it too, trying to explain what it's about. And rather than brushing it off, it actually leads to other deeper meanings and other interpretations. And I think Lorraine may have another avenue that you know sort of comes from all that discussion. It's interesting.
Yeah, Dora, you're afraid to go to bed. We'll tell you a bedtime story after, and but yeah, I think there's a lot. And I mean, I think this is one of the things that I love about Judaism, right? Is there's so many different interpretations. And so we just got to see, and this is 100% not an exhaustive list of the interpretations, right? This is just a few, because I felt like after a while, it starts to be like, okay, I get it. It's a different way of this, right? But there are just so many different interpretations. And yeah, you're not the only person that was, that saw that statement of Rabbah and was like concerned. I mean, I think the Talmud even saw the statement of Rabbah and was concerned, which is why we have the Rabbah and Rabbi Zera story. And then all of these rabbis are kind of trying to figure it out, and really, so there's a lot of different ways to approach it. And obviously some people approach it by like taking that opportunity to let loose, and that's right, like great, go for it, especially this year because no one's driving. So like I always get worried about drunk driving, but no one's drunk driving this year because you're at home. So feel free, drink as much as you want. Well, just don't kill anyone. But if you want to hit the booze, go for it. And don't drive. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways to kind of take this statement. And yeah, so it's interesting. Anyway, other thoughts, reactions? Bonnie?
Hi. Yeah, I kind of like the one from Sefer Kol Bo, because to me it says, okay, you'll have a little bit, you'll feel good. Because if you have a lot, alcohol's a depressant anyway, and you'll probably feel sad, which you shouldn't be doing on Purim. And I like the fact that when it says drink a little more than usual, and be generous, give to the poor, so then it's helping you fulfill one of the other mitzvot, the matanot lev. So I kind of like that one.
Yeah, definitely. It's like in service of another mitzvah. Yeah, I like that one too. Thank you. Other thoughts or ones that you liked or didn't like? Also, feel free, if you don't want to talk, you can always share in the chat. I try to monitor it. But yeah, I think there's like lots of different interpretations. And again, as I said, I think in our first class, that this is not one of the 4 mitzvot. We have 4 good ones. Yeah, so those are more fun. But yeah, if you want to drink in service of, I don't know, maybe you hate baking and drinking helps you bake more hamantashen that you give to your friends, that's cool too. Just make sure you like maybe pre-measure the ingredients before you get drunk. Because that, yeah. Or I don't know, do whatever you want, it's Purim. Go for it. But yeah, so there you go. So there's our little drinking on Purim. So now when people say you're supposed to get wasted, you can be like, well, actually, it's more complicated than that. So you're welcome. Anyway, okay, so now we're gonna look at, we're gonna switch topics a little bit. Here, I'll share my screen again. It's just nice to see you all, you know. Okay, so instead of just seeing this Google Doc, okay. Oh, I'm so torn. You know what I want to do? Sorry if this is making you dizzy. Okay, I have like two things and I couldn't decide which one. And I think I'm just going to decide this one. So this is a piece and I really love this piece. It's by my Rabbi Sharon Brous. And it's just some excerpts from an article she wrote around Purim. It's actually from 2014, but I really love, like, when I was in LA and at Ikar, which is where she's the rabbi, one of the rabbis. I just like always love her teaching on Purim. And I think a lot of my like Purim inspiration comes from her. And so I wanted to like bring her voice in to the conversation. And yeah, so this is some excerpts of an article. I bolded the things that are bolded. I bolded. And I know it's getting late, but I wanted to bring her voice in. I'll read it and just think about like if there are certain pieces of this that like are speaking to you or not speaking to you, but if there are certain things that are speaking to you that you want to comment on. And so this is from 2013, and she's talking about 9/11, 2001, and kind of that's helping her. It's like as a jumping off point to think about Purim. Okay, so here's what she says. As I made my way back to the Upper West Side apartment on 9/11, I passed a pack of men and women hanging out on the steps of a corner bar, drinking, laughing, and shouting Carpe Diem, having spent the day with a steady stream of distraught people desperate for answers to unanswerable questions. I was shaken by the dissonance between catastrophe and celebration. Confronted with the capriciousness of life, some search for meaning and comfort among the faithful, while others surrender to futility, determined to eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we may die. For Jews, the holiday of Purim attempts to do both. Purim is our annual journey to the edge of the cliff. As we tell and retell our story of genocide narrowly averted, Purim awakens within an acute awareness of our vulnerability. This day is dedicated to confronting the reality that no matter how hard we work to control our lives, how diligently we plan and prepare, life is inescapably unpredictable. On a whim, the characters in the Purim story saw their whole world turn upside down again and again. In a heartbeat, a queen is exiled, an orphan becomes royalty, a Jew is condemned and then redeemed, a general hangs from his own gallows, a people slated for genocide take up arms and kill their enemies instead. Everything was turned to the opposite of itself, or as novelist Joan Didion put it after her husband's unexpected death, life changes fast, life changes in the instant. You sit down to dinner and life as you know it ends. So what do we do with this awesome and awful awareness? On Purim, the tradition is to drink until we can no longer tell the difference between good and evil, as the Talmud puts it, embracing true moral ambiguity. We wear costumes that simultaneously conceal and reveal, exposing the aspects of ourselves as we work all year to hide. We eat, drink, dance, and laugh in the face of our darkest fears, knowing that everything we believe to be true could be a farce, that everything we love might disappear in an instant, that our world holds more chaos than order. Purim is an exercise in radical spiritual destabilization, and it's the closest Jews come to the idea of Carpe Diem. It's the one day each year that our otherwise exacting tradition recognizes that sometimes drunken revelry is a supremely reasonable response to the insanity of the world. And yet, Purim is more than a day of rowdiness and gluttony. Make them days of feasting and gladness, the book of Esther tells us, with gifts of food for each other and gifts to the poor. How do we respond to the mess of life? With sweet gifts to family and friends and generous contributions to the people who need it most. In other words, the way to make sense of life's randomness is to honor the loving relationships that sustain us and work to address the imbalance of fortunes that leaves some with abundance and others with nothing. While we cannot control the world, we can control the way we live into it. Here, I'll stop. There's more, but I think that's like that's a good chunk. That gives us a lot to chew on. Here, I'll stop the share for a sec. Yeah, any thoughts or things that kind of grabbed you out of that piece? I know it's a lot. It's almost 9.
Certainly fit with the situation we find ourselves in now. That, we couldn't predict it at all. And then when we heard we had this pandemic, we waited the 2 weeks and thought it would be over then, and it just continues. So I think it really, speaks to current times, and the idea of, again, gratitude and enjoying each day, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like some years it's not like this idea isn't obvious of life could change in an instant, and we don't know what life could look like next. And I feel like this year it's like, yeah, we're all living through that. And so instead of saying, okay, we need to bring awareness, because I think some years, right, like it's helpful to bring awareness to that idea of like life could change, because that can help us cultivate a gratitude and an awareness. And this year, I think it's about like, okay, we got that part. We know life can change in an instant, like we're living through this. But then it's like the second part of like, how do we deal with it, and what does our Jewish tradition say? And it has a lot of wisdom. Yeah. Stephen.
I think that, you said we're doing on a different tack. I think that you beautifully merged 2 passages, classic Talmudic stuff and commentary with this modern stuff. It's really a continuum, because in 1 or 2 of those passages, they were saying you should drink, but not drink to excess, so that you can't, number one, have the joy and fulfillment of the holiday, but also to fulfill the mitzvah of giving extra to the destitute in that. I mean, that's exactly what she's saying here. 700-800 years later, in a very modern context. And what you were saying about topsy-turvy, isn't it ironic that our whole life pivoted on Purim a year ago? Because I remember being in that crowd of 500 people in the sanctuary, and 2 days later is when everything shut down.
Yeah.
So talking about things turning on a 180-degree turn or pivot, how much more ironic is it that the holiday where everything turns around was exactly where everything turned from joy to craziness with this pandemic at the same time on Purim? It's like Adar is a very remarkable month. I think actually you said that, didn't you mention that last week in one of your drushes or something?
Yeah. Just it's hard to like not think about those 2 together, both because of the theme but also timing. It just like fits. And I mean, I hope someday soon, when this is all a memory, a memory that maybe we can laugh about. I don't know, that like we'll still have. I feel like I'll still have this association with Purim, and right, because it's like a reminder, and like the thing I used to think about on Purim before all this happened was a good friend who was training for a triathlon, and on her way to she was biking to the starting line, and she fell off her bike and like broke her leg. And so she went right, that's like, that for me was like, and she's fine, like everything's fine. But she went from like being super in shape, having trained for a triathlon, like about to compete in a triathlon, to like not being able to walk, right, in that like instant of falling. And that was kind of my like life can change in an instant thing. When like someone would say that to me, that's what I would think about. And now I think about this. But yeah, I think there's like a lot of those moments of like things can change, and they can also change for the better in an instant, right? But like, I don't know, I think we're evolutionary, like programmed to think of the bad. So that's where I would go. Other thoughts, reflections on this?
I hope I'm not talking too much tonight, but I love the phrase, our world holds more chaos than order. It makes me think of, I'm just thinking of Bereshit, because God took the disorder. I mean, if that's what you believe, or the story anyways is, took that disorder and put order into it. And so I would, for me personally, I was just thinking maybe our role is to bring as much order as we can into a very chaotic world.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I do like that phrase as well. And yeah, I think part of that bringing order, right? She talks about like, because bad things gonna happen when we don't want them to good people, and that whole piece, and that, right, part of Purim is helping to try and put some order by like redistributing our resources, right? We're giving to
Mhm,
the
mhm.
poor, and I'm trying to, yeah, to help like straighten out the world in our own, like in the way we can, right? We can't make it perfect, but we can do these things. Yeah, thank you. Any other thoughts, reflections? Stephen? Yes.
Well, what Devorah has said is something that is really pretty profound, because actually, if you take the interval from Purim to Pesach, you're going from the most chaotic and mixed up, crazy drunkenness sort of state to a higher level of personal fulfillment with the order, because the word Seder means order.
Mm,
So it's the order of Pesach.
yeah. I just
And
put,
actually,
sorry.
yeah, sorry, that little piece that I sent you in the email.
Yeah, I did not have a chance. I had it today, and then today was,
No,
yeah.
you're going to find that what she said is exactly that theme. That only I take it to Pesach as being the interval, but you'll see it comes out exactly. The words that are in that little passage from your rabbi are exactly the words that are in Bereshit and the words that are in that little piece. So I think Devorah has got she figured out the puzzle. It's really quite profound what she
Yeah.
said.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, like, yeah, because I feel like we come into contact with, I don't know that necessarily chaos, but like things that are disorder, like are that feel out of order, and yeah, like what is our reaction to that, and how do we deal with it? And Purim provides a lot of different ways, right? Sometimes it's like we just want to like step out of it and get intoxicated, and or just distance ourselves from it, or to try and bring some order. But yeah, I feel like, yeah, Purim is really this acknowledgement that things can get very, turned on their heads. And yeah, it's interesting about Passover, huh?
You'll have to read the piece.
Yeah, I need to read the piece. I posted in the chat, so if people want to like look at the word, because I know that the article was a lot of words. I didn't want to like keep it up on the screen necessarily, but it's there. It's at the end if you click on it or you want to read it later. But yeah, it's hard, right? It's like when we become aware of hard truths, how do we react? And I just like love Purim as an example of like a way to react, and think about how do we build up community, right? It's about building up community. It's about building ourselves. It's about giving to those less fortunate. And I don't know, I feel like sometimes it's helpful. I know for me, it's helpful to have like concrete things, right? Concrete things to grab onto, to like be grounded. And I think these are a couple of examples of ways to do that. And
Rabbi, can I ask you one thing? When you scrolled through to that passage from this rabbi, there was something mentioned about that at the end of days, when the
yes.
Mashiach comes, that Purim will be the only holiday. I thought it was both Hanukkah and Purim that would be.
Yeah, so that's a piece. I know that was like the other piece that I was like thinking about doing that I didn't do. But yeah, so there's text. So if you click into that, you'll see there's an argument actually about rabbis imagining like the end of days and what holidays are going to be nullified and which ones aren't, which is a whole other discussion. But yeah, so some say just Purim. There's like a source in there that says Purim and Yom Kippur. And yeah, I have seen Hanukkah, but it's again, right, just like the drinking conversation, lots of rabbis have lots of different opinions, because also like who knows what's going to happen. So yeah, so there's lots of different interpretations, but that's subject for another day. But yeah, well, thank you all for coming and talking Purim with me. It's been really fun to do this little mini series, and I'll work with Cora to do a Passover one. We'll figure out some Passover learning and things so that we can do this together, because I really enjoy it. And yeah, Chag Purim Sameach.
Thanks for this. That was very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. See you guys on Thursday.
Yeah, see you Thursday.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thanks.
Chag Sameach.
Thanks, Samaya.
Chag Sameach.